This is probably my most risky book that I bought. I think that he was kind of sad to let it go for the for the used book price. Their secrets refuse to stay buried. Ooh. And now you are part of the chain. Right? I'm sorry, Mom. They thought he was a helpless old man, but they were wrong. Is it Bigfoot? Question mark. And I just love anything to do with cults. Unpredictable and tragic results. Brilliant, hilarious, and wonderfully strange. And crime ensues. Christmas is coming, okay? To an unexpected romance. Feel free to sponsor me. This book just hits so hard. Hello, hello. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Casual. For those who are new here, we're so glad to have you here today. We are back with another book video. Welcome you back to the floor. We have a huge book haul. I haven't even counted these, but I'll insert the amount here. I am so beyond blessed to be able to have all these books. There's a combination over the past couple of months of my birthday, so gifts, and then some books that I turned in for my aunt. So I got store credit back, so the books were like free to me. And then sales after Thanksgiving on Book Outlet. At my local bookstore, I had to buy one get one free used books. And then the library sales, and I think that the just random other sales that I found. So I didn't pay full price for literally any of these books. I don't think. No, I didn't pay full price for any of these books. I am very pro used books. I think that new books, while they have their pristine condition and like awesome publisher analytics, stuff like that, but I just don't think that it's super sustainable. So I'm very pro used books, but that's just me. So I have several piles around me on the floor here. We'll have different categories. We'll have thrillers / spooky books, a combination of sci-fi, fantasy, and literary fiction. And then we'll have an entire section for Stephen King, and then we'll have romance, and then we'll end with classics because they're beautiful and I love them. The first books that we have to talk about are suspense, spooky. There's definitely the most of those, so I'm gonna try to be quick. We'll see. The first, we have a book from Nora Roberts called The Obsession. She has written so many books, and I want to be able to see if I like her writing style and we kind of like gel as reader and author. So what better way to introduce myself to her than 25 cents at a library sale? And this is like not a small book either, so definitely worth the price. This is about a professional photographer whose dad is a serial killer, and she finds that out as a child. And so her past kind of follows her throughout her adult life and trying to find like who she is and not obsessing over her past. The next we have The Boy Who Saw by Simon Toyne, I think is how you say that. This is about a little boy with synesthesia, which enables him to see colors instead of emotions that reveal the true intention of those around him. So he is able to work with a police detective, investigator guy, and figure out the motive suspicions of some crimes that are happening around their town. Next we have The Butterfly House by Catherine Ingberg. Again, don't know if I'm saying that right. I love these small paperbacks. I know that people don't necessarily love the size. I think they're great. I think they're called like pocket books or something. This is an engaging, inventive, brimming with personality, eccentric characters, and plenty of mystery and intrigue. It's about an investigation, a medical drama, I believe. Some shit goes down. We love to see it. Next we have The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. I actually listened to this partway on an audiobook, and no offense to the audiobook narrator, their voice was just not it for me. And so when it was like $1, my local bookstore, I was like, you know, let's give it another shot. Let's give it another shot. We'll see kind of what it's about and see if it hooks me a little bit more in written form than in audiobook form. It's about an old sanatorium that was turned into a high-class minimalism hotel. And they get snowed in a la The Shining, and people start disappearing. Next, we have a book by Lauren Oliver called Rooms. I've never read anything by her. I'm not sure how it is. I got this from my aunt and she really liked it. Rooms is a mesmerizing and suspenseful story of guilt, love, and family secrets. Estranged patriarch Richard Walker has died, leaving behind a country house full of rooms packed with the detritus of a lifetime. And he has an alienated family, enticing and imaginative ghost story, and a searing family drama that is as haunting as it is resonant. So I'm excited about that one and also really love the cover. Next is also from my aunt called Vanishing Girls by Lauren Oliver as well. This is another psychological thriller, but more about missing people. Two sisters who used to be so close aren't speaking. One of the sisters vanishes on her birthday, and then another girl goes missing as well. Oliver creates a world of intrigue, loss, and suspicion as two sisters search to find themselves and each other. Next, we have The Diviners by Libba Bray. I don't know much of anything about this book other than it was 25 cents at that said library sale from earlier. It's on the lists of like most addictive, most kind of twisty-turny books, and it's a historical fiction, so I'm really looking forward to that. The next books we have are The Island and the Twin by Natasha Preston. I have seen a lot about this author. She's super prolific, but the books are really not that long. They respect your time, we'll say. They're about 300, well, no, they're about 370 pages, so they're not thin, we'll say, but they don't look very long. This one's only about, it's in the 200s. Okay, I'm really looking forward to these. Don't really know much about them other than they are thriller suspense books. This is about a private amusement park for the very rich or the very influential. Soon they realize something's missing, getting off the island alive. And then this book is about twins, and one of them discovers that her other twin might not be as chill as she thinks that she is. And being a twin, love that. The next is The Best Revenge by Stephen White, another author that I have never read before, but when it's $2 at the bookstore, you can't really pass that up, especially for a hardcover. This is a much older book, but it has to do with a FBI agent, a psychologist, and an ex-asylum patient all kind of working together to, I can't tell if they're trying to solve a mystery or if the patient is going to be the perpetrator of a crime. But I'm looking forward to getting into that one when I want kind of more procedural, twisty time. The next, I have The Last to Vanish by Megan Miranda. It says it's to Target edition, but again, used from the bookstore. I have read several Megan Miranda books in the past, and I only give them about 3 stars. This one has people vanishing in the mountains and kind of figuring out what's going on there. I am looking forward to just trying to find one of her books that like really hits home with me. They're not a bad time, they're just nothing super inventive. Hopefully better than 3 stars, but hopefully not less than 3 stars. The next book we have Incubus by Anne Arsenberg. This is probably my most risky book that I bought. I am not sure about this. It is about a town in the 1970s that falls prey to this incubus that comes and attacks all of the women and coerces them into relations. So I'm not sure how graphic this story is going to be, but it sounded very culty, very The Visitation by Frank Peretti. So I'm hoping that it is not too graphic in that sense. Next we have 2 books by Lisa Jewell, who I have never read before, but we have And Then She Was Gone and The Family Remains. Again, both used from the bookstore. This is in perfect condition though, and I think that he was kind of sad to let it go for the for the used book price. I'm excited. I've heard that this book is very dark, about a woman whose daughter goes missing and then 10 years later she dates a man and his daughter looks exactly like her daughter but 10 years ago. So I'm not exactly sure how it's gonna turn, but everybody says that it's very dark and it left them feeling like very in a dark headspace, which I kind of like for the winter time, so we'll see how that goes. And then The Family Upstairs, Their Secrets Refuse to Stay Buried Ooh. This book has a investigator is called to the scene of a shocking discovery, one that will unearth a decades-old crime linked to the unsolved murder of 3 people in a grand Chelsea mansion. And then people move into the mansion, more people die. Haunted house, crime novel. Excited. Next, we have Lock the Doors by Vincent Ralph, another author that I've never read. This was in the young adult section, so I'm not sure how intense it is, but Dream Home turned out to be worst nightmare. Next we have The Chain by Adrienne McKenty. I am so glad that when I was shopping for my birthday at Barnes, I did not buy this, even though I was very close to doing so. But then I saw it for like $2 at my used bookstore and I was very excited about it. A stranger has kidnapped your child. The stranger explains that their child has also been kidnapped by a completely different stranger. The only way to get your child back is to kidnap another child, and now you are part of the chain. Right? That is such an interesting concept. I've never heard of that before, but I'm jazzed. I'm jazzed to read it when I want like a crime novel. Next, I'm sorry, Mom. Next, I have a book called Devil House. I swear you will not be borrowing this after me. So, this is a horror novel about a epic gripping novel about murder, truth, and the dangers of storytelling. Devil House is Josh General's most ambitious work yet, a book that blurs the line between fact and fiction that combines daring formal experimentation with a spellbinding tale of crime, writing, memory, and artistic obsession. This is about the Satanic Panic. A novelist offered the chance for his big break to move into the house where a pair of briefly notorious murders occurred. Begins research into the murders with diligence and enthusiasm, but soon the story leads him into a puzzle he never expected. Back into his own work and what it means. Back to the very core of what he does and who he is. So, Devil House only in the sense of like the Satanic Panic in the 1980s. Hopefully there's no actual devil in the house, because that would suck. Next we have And There He Kept Her by Joshua Moling. Sorry if I said that wrong. They thought he was a helpless old man, but they were wrong. Thrilling page turner that introduces readers to a complicated new hero and focus us to consider the true nature of evil. I'm excited. It has a blurb from Samantha Downing on the back. I've never read Julie Clark, who has a blurb on the front. Another author that I'm excited to get into. I'm assuming he keeps a woman in his house. Yep, real deductive reasoning there. Casual. Next we have De-Evolution by Max Brooks. I accidentally bought the large print, but you know, sometimes your brain just needs a break when it comes to word size and the page. And you know what? Give large print a try, especially if there's a book that you want to read at the library that isn't in your normal print. It's the same content, just in a larger print. Me trying to tell myself that this mistake is okay. So this is about a expedition into the mountains, part survival narrative, part bloody horror tale, part scientific journey into the boundaries between truth and fiction. This is a Bigfoot story as only Max Brooks could chronicle it, and none like you've ever read before. This, from what I know, is based off of a real life story of a expedition like mountain party that was discovered like torn to pieces, and nobody knows why, and none of the actual scientific evidence connects. So basically, is it Bigfoot? Question mark. Oh my gosh, this sack is gonna fall. Next is a book that I for sure bought for the cover because look at this thing. Oh, it's beautiful. Leech by Hiran Inez. So sorry if I said that wrong. This is about a kind of a medical horror. Meet the curse? Nope. Meet the cure for human disease. In an isolated chateau far north as it goes, the Baron's doctor has died. The doctor's replacement has a mystery to solve, discovering how the Institute lost track of one of its many bodies. So it seems like a parasite is spreading through the Baron's castle. Already a dark pit of secrets, lies, violence, and fear. The two will make war on the battlefield of the body. Whichever wins, humanity will lose. Again. And it's a matte cover. Ooh, love it. Book Outlet has such cool books. Speaking of such cool books, a book I've never heard about before is called Pinata, Forgotten But Not Gone by Leopoldo Gout. I don't know anything about it. They were worshipped by our ancestors and now they are forgotten. Soon they'll make us remember. I'm not sure if this is young adult or adult horror. It has to do with like an ancient abbey in Mexico, and as they're redoing it, they unearth a sinister spirit that latches onto this family. I'm not sure how Pinata works into it, but it just seems so cool. And after reading Mexican Gothic and The Hacienda, I really wanted to get more into Mexican horror. It's just really cool. And then next we have Just Like Mother by Anne Heltzel. This is about a duo of cousins that end up leaving a cult and then losing track of each other. Then as they're older, they get back into contact, but it seems like one of the cousins might not be so out of the cult as the other cousin thought. And I just love anything to do with cults. Next we have Ghoster by Jason Arnott. This was a random find at my bookstore. I am excited to read it because it's more of a like technology-based horror. Katie Collins has been ghosted. She was supposed to be moving in with her new boyfriend Scott, but all she finds after relocating is an empty apartment. Scott has vanished. His possessions have all disappeared except for his cell phone. And then she hacks in and she sees some stuff she's not supposed to, and then it just kind of goes from there. It seemed like kind of an easier read, something more modern, something different than like gothic horror stories like all my others. And then we have Brother by Anya Alborn. I've seen this everywhere. This is making the rounds on like the horror YouTubers that I watch. I am kind of worried about it because brand new novel of terror, a young man determined to break from his family's unconventional and deeply disturbing traditions. That's all I know, but this cover kind of sold me on it, and the fact that a bunch of people have been talking about it, and you know, it has a blurb from Shonda McGuire on the back. You can't go wrong. Next we have Black Chalk by Christopher J. Yates. It says 1 game, 6 students, 5 survivors. This is dark academia, kind of a thriller. It's only meant to be a game played by 6 best friends. In their first year at Oxford, the game of consequences, silly forfeits, and childish dares. But then the game changed. The stakes grew higher and the dares more personal and more humiliating, finally evolving into a vicious struggle with unpredictable and tragic results. I like dark academia books. I think they're really great. After I read The Maidens, and it was just, chef's kiss, I love him. Michaelides? I'm not sure exactly how to say it, but I'm excited to kind of dive back into a dark academia world. This is starting to tilt. Let's hope it doesn't fall on me. Next, we have another 25-cent buy from the library, and I didn't even pay 25 cents, my mom did, but it is Verity by Colleen Hoover. Colleen Hoover is my little sister's favorite author ever. I've only read Too Late by her, which I think is her most recent release as of filming this video. From what my sister says, she says that I'll like this book and I'll like Layla. I don't really know much about it other than there's an author who is in a coma, and then a ghostwriter is hired to finish her novels, and she finds stuff that she shouldn't find. That's all I know. And I think there's a romance element to it. Yeah, romantic thriller. We'll see. 25 cents. Can't be that. Next we have The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling, another author who I've never read anything by, but look at this cover. Lexi talks about this on her channel, and so I'm very excited to read a book recommended by her. Let's see. I've heard that this gives very Crimson Peak vibes. Dark Mirror version of post-war England crafts a new type of gothic horror from the bones of beloved canon. So I'm very excited. Another gothic horror for the pile. Next we have Little Eyes by Samantha Schweblin. So this is written, I think she's Argentinian. Buenos Aires is where she's from. She lives in Berlin. It's translated by Megan McDowell. This is about a Black Mirror-esque society in which there are toys that have little eyes, which are cameras that watch everybody's move. So whether you have one or whether you are connected to a household that has the eyes, everybody's moves are watched. Visionary novel about our interconnected present, and the collision of horror and humanity. I'm excited. This will be my first Schweblin. Thank you so much to Allison Pages for that recommendation. Next we have Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. This one was recommended by Plant Praised Bride. I'm excited about that. I've never read anything by this author, but I think it's another gothic-infused debut of literary suspense set within a secluded elite university, following a dangerously curious, rebellious undergraduate who uncovers a shocking secret about an exclusive circle of students and the dark truth behind her school's promise of prestige. So another dark academia, gothic horror, just masterpiece, hopefully. We only have 3 more in this stack. So next we have The Disappearance by Bentley Little, another cover by. I have never heard about this author before, but look at that cover. Look at that cover. That's beautiful. And it has a blurb by Stephen King. The perfect getaway turns into a nightmare when a girl vanishes without a trace in this horror novel that can only have come from the mind of Bram Stoker award-winning author Bentley Little. I'm excited about that. Next, we have The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. This one's a little bit worse for wear. When it was like $1, can't beat it. I've never read Ruth Ware before. I have a book from the library by her. The Turn of the Key is by her. It's just off frame, but I've heard that this one is a very good one as well. I just know that she writes psychological thrillers and that they're very easy reads, but they might not be the most complicated books in the entire world. And then lastly, we have His Mother's Son by Kai Emmons. This was another cover by because I don't know anything about it. To those who meet Jana Thomas, hers seems a perfect life with a beautiful home, a successful career as an ER doctor, a loving husband, and a lively 6-year-old son named Evan. But inside, she's crumbling. Jana's forced to plunge into the emotional whirlpool she left behind, with results that are shattering, profound, and wrenchingly moving. So it seems like it's both drama and thriller. New author. We'll see how she is. That is it in the thriller category, so let's move into that general fiction, sci-fi, and fantasy section. In our kind of catch-all category, the first we have The Edge of Eternity by Randy Alcorn. This is a Christian fiction kind of end of days type. God, life, and the world beyond. The choices one man makes will have eternal consequences. Frank Peretti is one of my favorite authors of all time. Would definitely check him out. Even if you're not super into religious fiction, but just general, less intense than Stephen King, but more intense than like a crime drama type author. Randy Alcorn. Never read anything by him. Saw the cover and wanted to give it a try. Trying to scratch that itch of Frank Peretti that he's left in my life. Next we have Mary Jane by Jessica Anya Blow. I've heard a lot of booktubers talk about this, and this perfect edition cover was on the buy one get one free table at my used bookstore. A lot of people have compared this to Daisy Jones and the Six, which I have not read but I do own. I'm excited to kind of see more of a historical fiction about a nanny in the 1970s, nannying a child of a very eccentric family, we'll say. Next we have Welcome to Night Vale by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Cranor. This is a podcast called Welcome to Night Vale, and I'm excited to kind of get more into the novel style. Brilliant, hilarious, and wonderfully strange. That's a good way to put it. Next, we're kind of moving into fantasy. We have The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I've seen this making the rounds forever, and I'm excited to finally pick it up. I don't know anything about it. Discover the Broken Earth trilogy. This is the way the world ends for the last time. It starts with the Great Red Rift across the heart of the world's sole continent, spewing ash that blots out the sun. Starts with death, with a murdered son and missing daughter. Starts with betrayal, a long dormant wound rise up to fester. This is the Stillness, a land familiar with catastrophe, where the power of the earth is wielded as a weapon, and there is no mercy. This is the beginning of a trilogy, and so I'm excited to see if I am as into this as everybody else is. Next, we have a duology by Leigh Bardugo, The Six of Crows and The Crooked Kingdom. My aunt had this beautiful edition of The Crooked Kingdom with the red sprayed edges that she was going to donate, and so I snagged it. And so then I had to go out and get the Six of Crows because this is the second one in the duology, and so I'm excited to kind of get into that. I've heard that this goes with the Shadow and Bone trilogy, which I have not read, but I'm gonna read these first and we'll kind of see how it goes. And then lastly, in the fantasy category, we have this chungus of a book, A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. I saw that this was $6 on Book Outlet and I just had to have it, even though it's massive. I have The Priory of the Orange Tree right here. I think it's the most beautiful book that I have. I have not read it, but I'm very excited. And these are ones that I would be hesitant to get from the library, because with the library, you only have a certain amount of time to read a book before you have to turn it back in. And so this one is so thick that I would be hesitant to do so, but I'm very excited to kind of take my time, go through it, and just read this beautiful fantasy world. That is it in the catch-all category. So now we're gonna move into our Stephen King category, because there's 8 books of his that I was able to find over the past couple of months. So the first I got from Book Outlet, called Lisey's Story, which is really funny because I actually went to high school with a girl named Lisey. and I'd never heard that name before. This has been turned into a Apple TV series. I know that it has to do with a marriage. The wife lost her husband. He was an award-winning novelist. There's a place Scott went that both terrified and heal him, could eat him alive, or give him the ideas he needed in order to live. Now it's Lacey's turn to face Scott demons. Ooh. So it's about a wife's journey, kind of figuring out who her husband was, you know, behind closed doors. Next we have Misery. I have never actually read the book, but I love the movie, and so I'm excited to see if it is actually any different than the movie portrays. Next we have Dreamcatcher. This is a acid trip of a cover. This is an old cover, but I am excited to have it from 2001. We love it. She's a thick one, but she's a small one, you know? Yellowed pages, we love to see it. Once upon a time in the haunted city of Derry, 4 boys stood together and did a brave thing. It was something that changed them in ways they could never understand. So it sounds like they save a Down syndrome kid from bullies. Beeve, Henry, Pete, and Jonesy, now men with separate lives and separate problems, reunite in the woods of Maine for their annual hunting trip. Soon, the 4 friends are plunged into a horrifying struggle with a creature from another world where their only chance of survival is locked in their shared past and in the Dreamcatcher. So I'm getting very strong vibes of It, which, speaking of, we have It. Look at this edition. Also book outlet for $5.99. It's the most floppy paperback, which I've never really been into, but like, I'm obsessed. Everybody knows the story of It, but apparently the book has a lot more into it. This is the only one that my mom has actually read all the way through, and she went like this. So I've heard there's some kind of graphic stuff in here, so definitely read the trigger warnings. Take care of yourselves. And then the next we have The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. This is about a little girl who goes missing, and the only thing that keeps her kind of sane while she's wandering the woods is this radio broadcast of the Boston Red Sox baseball games, and the relief pitcher Tom Gordon is her favorite player. So that's what kind of keeps her moving, keeps her going, keeps her from losing herself to the woods while she's gone. Then next we have Revival, which is another like small town, vaguely religious, potentially horror book. If you know me, those are my favorite ones. If there's a cult, even better. New minister came to Harlow, Maine when Jamie Morton was a boy doing battle with his toy army men on the front lawn. The young Reverend Charles Jacobs and his beautiful wife brought new life to the local church and captivated their congregation. But they think that there's something up with the new pastor. If y'all can see a cat tail, that's my cat Loretta, or BB as we like to call her, coming in to the knocking over my stacks. And then the last 2 books we have are Mr. Mercedes and Finders Keepers, which are 2 of a 3-part series. The next one is called End of Watch, but I couldn't find it. I want to read these procedural dramas before I read Holly, his newest release, because she helps out in these books and has several short stories in other collections of his. So I wanted to know a little bit more about her before I read that full-length novel about a character that I've never heard of. I also have The Outsider on my Kindle, so we'll see how I like these. This one is a procedural drama about a man who runs over people with his car. And then Finders Keepers is about an author who writes about a safe of cash and his unpublished work that he kind of weaves into his stories. Somebody finds it, and then he has to get it back from them. And crime ensues. That is my Stephen King section. Now let's jump into the romance category, which granted is the smallest category. There's some that I'm most excited about. First off, we have kind of interconnected standalones of Icebreaker and Wildfire by Hannah Grace. I've never read anything by her. Everybody has been losing their collective shit over these books. I've heard that if you like Icebreaker, you might not like Wildfire as much, and vice versa. However, I'm not super into like sports romances versus like summer camp romances. It doesn't matter to me. Romance is a romance when you see that I'm like much more of a thriller girly. However, they seem really cute. I like the covers. I'm glad that I have them in the physical copy. That way I can kind of read them as I get to them instead of having to rush and feel like I have to turn them back into the library. Especially Libby, the digital app, has you turn them back in on time versus my library has no fines. So if you're late, doesn't really matter that much. I've heard they're very spicy. My local bookstore owner was like, okay, I need a book report on these because I've never actually read them. And so I am not entirely sure how that's gonna go because he's like a 75-year-old man, but we will see how that report goes. Next, we have Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I have heard that Talia Hibbert is one of everybody's favorite romance novelists. This is a part of 3 interconnected standalones about 3 sisters, the Brown sisters. I don't know which one this is or if you're supposed to read them in a certain category. However, it was on the used books table for, this was one of the free ones of the buy one get one free. I'm very excited to read it. I've heard great things. We'll see. Next, I got on Book Outlet because I was, oh God, baby. Next, I got on Book Outlet because it was $3.99 and Christmas is coming, okay? All I Want for Christmas is a Cowboy by Jessica Clare. I've never read anything by Jessica Clare, but I'm so excited. There's a cowboy, a horse, and a dog, and it's Christmas. What else do you need, you know? Especially for the special value price of $3.99, or not even, $3.50, I think. Christmas arrives early when a fateful encounter leads 2 strangers to an unexpected romance. Christmas romance. And then the last 2 are Book of the Months, but I did not get them through Book of the Month. I got them used from the bookstore where people turn them back in. I found Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon? Nicola? I've never heard of this book. Don't know anything about it. It seems like a really cute romance about dancing. That's all I know. I love Book of the Month because they're all the same size and they all look really nice on my shelves together. Book of the Month, feel free to sponsor me. I have my Book of the Month books on the way here as I'm filming this book, but I just could not wait anymore to film this haul. They will hopefully be in my December wrap up, but we'll see. And then the last book in the romance category is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I have read this book previously. It is along with Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is my favorite romance of all time. It shows anxiety in a very like accessible lens and like a peek into how a anxious person's life really goes. It is connected to her other book called Part of Your World, which I would suggest reading before this book unless you want a couple spoiled that they talk about in this one that you read about in the first one. But this one is way better than that one. Although that one's really good, but this one just hits home. Kind of like when I was talking about Hello Stranger by Catherine Center in my November wrap up. This book just hits so hard and I love it so much. And so that's the only book that I've read before from the library or digitally or otherwise that I've gone out and bought a physical copy. So that's how much this book means to me, if that tells you anything. And then the last category we have to go into is the classics. And these are all classics that I have not read before. I do have a classics shelf behind me that I have read. However, I do want to get more into classics. And so I thought that this would be a great way to do it by either having them free to me by store credit or 25 cents at a library sale or for free for my birthday. You know, what a better way. So first we have The Complete Stories of Flannery O'Connor. I actually went to college in the same town that she lived in, and I've been to her peacock farm and seen her house and walked around the grounds. She is controversial because she lived in 1925 and, you know, the social structure of the world at that time was definitely not the way it is now. However, I do want to be able to separate the classics from the person who wrote them, and I've never read anything by her, and being so close to the town where she lived, I just wanted to kind of learn more about her. And look at this, and this cover is gorgeous. And peacocks are my favorite birds, and so I'm jazzed about that. Next, we have The Three Musketeers, The Count of Monte Cristo, and The Man in the Iron Mask, all by Alexandre Dumas. They're in these perfect little pocket books. I'm jazzed about them. The only downside of these is that The Count of Monte Cristo is the abridged version, and I don't know what I'm gonna be missing. Comment down below if you do know abridged versus unabridged, if I need to go out and buy the unabridged version. But these covers were beautiful, and this is one of my favorite movies of all time. This and The Man in the Iron Mask. And then also The Three Musketeers. How cute. How classic stories. Yeah, like this is the unabridged text of The Three Musketeers, but this is the abridged version of The Count of Monte Cristo. So let me know what I'm missing. I've never read anything by Alexandre Dumas, but I love the actual stories themselves, and I'm excited to kind of see what I haven't seen in the movies and see if there's like even more to these stories that I love. Next we have a teeny tiny one, Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. I think that's how you say his name. I know this is about aliens and the war. That's all I know. Only a few more. Next we have The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is a look to the 1950s of women's mental health and how that was extremely mistreated in the healthcare system back in the day. I've heard it's kind of a tough read. Sylvia Plath masterfully draws the reader into Esther's breakdown with such intensity that Esther's insanity becomes completely real and even rational, as probable and accessible an experience as going to the movies. That sounds like a tough read. I'm not sure if I'm in the headspace for that. I kind of like for the winter time that and the Lisa Jewell book where they put you in a bad mental state. Like, I said earlier that I love them for the winter, but I'm not sure about if I love them that much for the winter. Next to last, we have Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Don't know if that's how you say it. Normally I don't like movie covers, but I actually kind of like this movie cover. This is another classic that I have never read about a man marries woman, moves her into house where ex-dead wife ghost is haunting. Like, I'm not sure if it's a literal ghost or if it's more in the metaphorical, metaphysical sense of like, all of her stuff is here. All of the staff talks about her. Even the husband talks about her and like compares her and, you know, she's haunting her in that sense. I don't know if that's the case. I'm excited to find out. And then last but not least, I have the most beautiful book I think that I own. And this is The Complete Tales of Jane Austen. This is like a pleather bound, all of her novels. They're all listed on the back. It has Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, Mansfield Park, Emma, Northanger Abbey, and Persuasion. All in this one beautiful, looks like a Bible-esque book. Like, this is insane. This is probably the most beautiful thing that I've ever owned when it comes to books. And this one I got for free with that store credit, and so that makes it even better. And so I'm very jazzed to have this as one of those things that I will like never ever give up, and I'll probably never be able to top, you know? That is all of our books for the book haul today. There's so many. I'll put on the screen, I'm sure, how many there are. But thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you all. Let me know down in the comments below if there's a book that's your favorite in the stack or if there's anything you think I should add. Be safe out there. I love you all, and happy reading.